So after a year of owning the Sony Venice and Tokina Vista Prime lenses, was it worth the investment? So before I give you my answer, let's review some of the specs from the Sony Venice and the Tokina Vista Primes. So obviously, the Sony Venice is Sony's highest-end camera. One of the biggest benefits of this camera is the fact that it's full frame. With the 36 by 24 millimeter sensor, you really get a huge difference in shallow depth of field compared to Super 35. Another really great thing about this camera is the fact that it shoots 6K, 4K, HD. Dynamic range in this camera is truly amazing, with dual base ISO as well at 500 and 2500. You can honestly shoot in the dark. It's almost like night vision. It's pretty close. Another really great aspect of this camera is its wide color gamut with Rec 709, Rec 2020, and also Sony's S Gamut 3. When deciding on what lens set I wanted to get to pair with the Sony Venice, I was obviously limited by the fact that it's full frame, and I could really only choose from full frame lenses. I mean, I could get Super 35, but that defeats the purpose of getting a full frame camera. So obviously full frame lenses tend to be a little bit more expensive. They're also a little bit more sparse in the fact that there's not as many as Super 35. After using the Tokina Vista Primes on a couple projects, I recognize that these are probably the perfect lens for me to own. And the reason for that is just the actual quality of the lens, the image the lens produces, and also the cost. The lens itself, I believe they average around $4,000 to $6,000 per lens. And yes, granted, that's a lot of money. But when you compare it to, say, a $30,000 lens or $20,000 or $40,000, it's way more affordable. And when you can get a whole set for, say, $25,000, it's really a financial decision as well. But it's also understanding that this lens is really great for the value and the money that you're spending. So after about a year of using it, I've noticed how much I really do love this camera. I thought I loved it when I first got it, but after using it for a year, I realized that I really love it even more. Besides the fact that it is ginormous, it's so heavy, but that's part of the reason I love it as well, is I love the bulkiness of it. I love the form factor. I love the fact that it's like a rectangle, and you could add adjustments like the RAW recorder in the back and then your gold mounts. It's got a lot of different options to truly customize your rig the way that you want and how your AC wants to build the camera. So I really think the Venice offers a lot of different solutions and a lot of customization depending on your style and the shoot that you're shooting. And obviously this camera isn't for everybody. It does require a lot of knowledge. It does require a lot of patience in learning how to use it, but it also requires a bit of a team to use it properly. Of course, for those of you that watch my channel, you know that I love run and gun stuff every so often. Even some of the lower budget projects or passion project spec stuff that I've done. Maybe I'll have just an AC, or maybe it's just me, but I feel comfortable managing the camera by myself. But on a normal production, it's usually good to have an AC that understands the Venice, knows how to use it, and a second AC that could also offer some assistance as well. What I love about these lenses is it does produce a sharp, clean image without any distortion, even on the 18mm. Like I said, of course it covers full frame, it also covers Super 35 as well, so it gave me all of the ranges within the Sony Venice resolutions that I could choose from, and this lens set covers all of it. Another great thing I love about these lenses is how fast they are. At a T1.5, all of the lenses start at a T1.5, so I really do love the consistency there, and how all of the lenses are the same, so you can maintain equal exposure if you're swapping lenses. Besides the actual characteristics of the lens, the body itself, the make, the build is very high quality, and granted they're very heavy, they're very large, but they are built very solid. So that's another really great benefit of these lenses as well, is that they don't feel cheap. They feel like they're very expensive lenses. Alright, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, finances. What is the cost of ownership of this camera and lenses? Did I make any money? What is the rental rate for this? Was this a good investment? Let's talk about it. So because I financed both the camera and lenses, I did not pay for them upfront. I didn't have the cash to be able to do that. I have to pay a monthly payment every month to be able to pay off the loan and interest. So with my interest rate and how much I put down, my total monthly payment is $1,200 per month to be able to pay off the loan and interest over the next couple of years. So $1,200 is my minimum monthly payment of ownership of the Venice and lenses. To some of you, that might seem like a lot of money. For some of you, that might be like, oh, dude, that's nothing at all. And for me, I initially was like, oh, that might be a lot. And then I thought, that's actually not that much if you break it down to how much it costs to rent this thing, how much you would get paid to rent this Venice and the lenses out per day. So let's talk about what the rental rate that I received this year for the Venice and the lenses. And again, these rates are based on current market value of what I saw this past year. And it's usually within the region of where I'm working. So between, most of it New York, Philly, DC, occasionally in California and throughout the United States. The Venice seems to be at a pretty standard place of about $1,300 a day. And within my Venice, my package, I offer 2 media cards. I also offer batteries, 4 of them, and onboard monitor. And that's essentially what my package offers. You go to some rental houses, they'll offer different things. And of course, mine comes with the regular accessories and things to actually make the camera work. So depending on where you rent your Venice, you'll get other things. You might not get certain things, but that's mine. $1,300 a day. That's what you get. And that's just for the body. Now, in certain instances where I think the Tokina Vista Primes are the best lens for this particular job due to budget restrictions or due to the fact that creatively, I think these would be a great choice. I rent my set, which includes the 18, 25, 35, 50, and 85 for $650 per day. So now let's total those up. If I were to rent the Venice at full day rate plus my Tokinas at full day rate, what does that amount to? $1,950 per day of a rental rate. Now, going back to what my minimum monthly payment is, $1,200, technically, all I have to do is rent the Venice by itself once to be able to pay for the monthly payment of both the camera and lens. And I did find that this year that I did rent it quite often, and it was actually a very positive financial decision that I made. So obviously I could just say that it did well. Let's actually take a look at how many times I rented it this year and what the total amount of money I received for the rentals were this year. In total, I rented the cameras and lenses for a total of 16 and a half times. 16 and a half. Why you're asking half? Well, I think one of them was a half day. 16 and a half days on set were either with my Sony Venice alone, my lenses alone, or both Sony Venice and Tokinas. So 16 and a half days. What did that equal in terms of money this year that I received from rentals for these camera and lenses? The total was $23,150 I received this year in just rentals for the Venice and the Tokina Vista Primes. So now the total cost of ownership of the camera and lens, I paid 11 times last year because I got it in late January. I didn't pay for the month of January. So I paid 11 times and I got my camera serviced once. So in total, it cost me in ownership $13,550 to own the camera and lens and service the Venice once. And with a total gross profit of rental of $23,150, I'd say that that is a very good investment and I made a good amount of money on this camera and lens. But I will say that I didn't take any profit because I still owe money. Until I am full and clear, I own it without any, debt, nothing. I'm not going to take any profit from it. All of it's going to go to the loan and interest. But as you could see, the profits are almost double of what it cost to own it, and this was my first year. So I'm very optimistic that this upcoming year will hopefully do, the same, if not better than what I did last year. But either way, this first year was a very positive first run for me in terms of owning this high-level equipment. Next, let's talk about creativity. Besides the potential financial benefits of owning this package, I also wanted a package that I felt truly inspired by. And I also wanted a package that I knew that I can grow with and would have longevity with me and my career. Let's be honest, there's a ton of new cameras coming out every month. A lot of people ask me if I regret buying the Venice with the fact that the Alexa 35 came out, the Venice 2 came out, the Burano came out, even like the FX6 or FX3s. And my answer to them always and has been since I got the camera, no, I do not regret it at all. This was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And the fact that a lot of us look at the equipment that we own as something that we feel inspired by and something that we love and does the job perfectly, that when we see something new and shiny come out, we immediately think that what we currently own is not good enough anymore. We have to get that next best thing. And that's just a whole different conversation of consumer and marketing and whatever the case may be. This camera is truly one of Hollywood's best cameras you can buy. This is one of cinema's best cameras that you can buy. It is truly remarkable what this camera can do. The amount of movies and shows that was shot on this camera, let me share a few. Beau is Afraid, Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning, Part 1, Top Gun Maverick, Jack Ryan, Creed 3, Dahmer, The Whale, Hustle, Nanny, Coda, Ozark Season 4, Severance, I Think I'm Sick by Danny Gewirtz. That was also shot in the Venice, but these are just to name a few amazing pieces that were shot in the Venice. And to say that, oh, do you regret it because there's a new thing out? Absolutely not. This camera still to this day inspires me beyond belief, and I think I've only scratched the surface of the potential of what I can produce with this camera. So besides the projects that I were paid for as a DP, like a regular commercial, and that I got a good rental rate, I also did a lot of passion projects. I did a lot of spec work this year, and I donated the camera and lenses for the sake of the project a lot this year. I did quite a few of them, and I'm truly grateful for the fact that I'm able to do that and be a part of certain projects and be able to offer this high-end equipment for a project that really doesn't have a big budget, but I can offer something to help elevate the actual image. That's something that I'm truly grateful that I'm able to do, and I'm willing to do that every time I join a passion project or spec project, because I know that one, it's going to inspire me to create a better image and become a better DP on this project. It's going to help me focus. It also raises the overall production value. When people see this big camera out, it adds a sense of seriousness. It adds a sense of like, oh wow, we're making something like really great here. And I also get to experiment with this camera nonstop. Like every time I'm on a passion project, a spec thing, something that I'm not necessarily paid for, even though I do, I experiment a lot. I try new things. I get to really see where this camera shines, where it falls, what the grain is like in 500 ISO compared to 2500 ISO. How does it react to a certain light? I truly get to just find the ins and outs of this camera by shooting with it all the time and being able to donate it to projects and shoot with it for free, essentially, because I want to. And it's kept me inspired, and I absolutely love it. And along with the camera, I know I keep talking about the camera, but the lenses itself are another really great tool to be able to own and, again, offer to productions on your spec project or passion project, because you want to rent cinema lenses. Lenses are what make the look, really. You can make, all cameras are great, they really are, but the lenses are truly what makes up the characteristic of the image. And the fact that I own a very clean set of cinema lenses and being able to offer that has been a really great tool, because at the end of the day, when you're shooting a low budget project and you want to rent a set of lenses from a rental house, not only do you have to pay for the rental, you also have to pay for insurance as well, because no rental house is just going to give you their $200,000 lenses for free. It costs money, and it can be expensive, especially if you're on a shoestring budget. So being able to offer that lens and also the camera has really provided me a lot of the productions that I've been on with an elevated production value. And honestly, I still love these lenses. Like, if I have the option to shoot on any lens, I will probably choose something maybe more like a Blackwing or a Cook, or depending on what the look is. But for majority of the projects that I'm shooting at right now, these lenses are absolutely perfect. And when you pair it with the black satin filtration, which is really my favorite, you can get a very beautiful looking image out of the lens here. And what's really great about black satin, for those of you that aren't too familiar, is it does soften the image, but it also maintains the sharpness and contrast. It does bloom the highlights a little bit, depending on the strength, but it's a great filtration that is subtle, again, depending on the strength, but it adds a little bit of softness to an already sharp, clean lens, so it's a great balance. So in terms of my cinematography, since owning this camera, I can truly see a lot of growth within myself. I think this camera has pushed me to new limits. It's forced me to focus a lot harder on the image itself And in terms of technicalities, I had to learn a whole new system of cameras. I had to learn the ins and outs of this camera, and I needed to make sure that I had all the accessories possible to make sure that when I get it rented, this camera comes as a full package and is ready to go. I make sure it gets serviced, and I make sure it is in running order. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there, like, oh, you have the best camera in the world. No wonder your images look great. They're always going to look good with this camera. And honestly, that's not necessarily the case. Just because you have a beautiful camera doesn't make you a good cinematographer. There's a lot more aspects to cinematography than having a great camera. I think having a good cinema camera only benefits you when you focus on other aspects of cinematography. Like, you need to know lighting, you need to know composition, you need to know framing. You also need to understand camera movement as well. And by just sticking the camera in front of something doesn't automatically mean that you're going to produce a great image. That's not the case. So by having this camera, I definitely felt a growth within myself to make sure that every aspect of cinematography is something that I'm considering and something that I am working and improving on every single time. So yeah, after a year of owning this camera and these lenses, I do not regret it at all. And I hope in 2024, it brings me just as much positive return, not only financially, but creatively, as it did in 2023. So that's all I got for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and Happy New Year. I wish all of you nothing but the best this upcoming year. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you next time. Peace out.